Hello, friends. This is Akulmach live, and I am Chandrakant. So much bad news is now coming. If you look at the top newspaper or read any mainstream media, you will have all the statistics. You will have all these, when the vaccination is coming. A lot of politics is being discussed openly. So the challenge for us is how do we keep our positive outlook? How do we maintain that? We always have a good, events happening, going to happen beyond the horizon. How do we maintain that as a business leader? Or, in fact, this is a hallmark of the leadership. So, to discuss this very important subject, I have been joined by a very important, very senior industry colleague of ours, joining me from UK. So, an outstanding show coming up. Friends, there is also a giveaway. So, please stick around in the show. We will tell you in the end how you can claim your free gift. Friends, let us welcome our guest today. His name is Mike Bradley. He's joining us from UK and he is Group Chief Strategy Officer of RHF and Scale Up Arena. So we will welcome him without further ado and we will ask him a very, very specific leadership question today. Mike, welcome to the show.
Good afternoon to you, Chandra. Good afternoon. How are you today?
I'm very good, Mike. And fortunately, the curve of infection has sort of flattened. It's still growing, but it is sort of flattened because of the lockdown, which was announced a couple of days back.
Right.
So
that's very positive news. That's very positive.
Yes. So I think the question today is...
keep our fingers crossed. Fingers crossed that continues.
The question really is how do we maintain a positive outlook or how do we remain positive with positive mind frame in the event of adversity? That's really the question for leaders and your advice for the leaders.
Absolutely. I also would phrase that as the art of true leadership, because I think anybody can lead when things are going well. But the mark of true example and leadership is when things are going badly, that person can still maintain the support and the spirit that enables somebody to overcome the challenge. So for me, that maintaining a positive spirit in the face of adversity is the art of true leadership.
So much bad news and new mutation of corona. Because of that, people are having a lot of hindrance in their day-to-day activities. The strategy planning also is not working because what strategy to plan for what month. So all those of complexities are now coming up in the business. So what is your advice? How do we maintain a positive outlook towards our business?
Well, I think one of the first things that's most important is we must maintain a positive outlook. We must always look for the positives in every situation, because if you don't, it's a downward spiral and things will only get worse. So the trick, I believe, is to get up one more time than you get knocked down. So I think there are 3 E's that come to mind when it comes to overcoming adversity. There is endurance, obviously. There is endeavor, and there is endearment. And I think those 3 E's apply in all situations, obviously in business, but also in education, in family, in health, in government, and of course, least likely to occur is in the media. Because, and I think let's start with the negatives around this first. The first thing to do if you want to maintain a positive spirit in the face of adversity is don't go and talk to the miserable people or the miserable leaders, because they will drag you down. They will bring you quite happily into their downward spiral staircase, and you'll all be going down to the abyss together. So the first thing to do is to avoid spending time with those people who are always on the negative. Second thing to avoid is to avoid taking the mainstream media too seriously. Because if we listen to the media or we read the media too much, they love a story. And there's an old expression that used to be, bad news travels like wildfire. You know, what sells, what gets viewers, nothing better than a good old tragedy or some scandal. Some negativity will always get the attention. And a few years ago, there was a newscaster in the UK called Martin Lewis, and he basically was saying we should have more good news. And of course, he was very unpopular for saying this because, you know, unfortunately, good old auntie does not like good news. They really like to stir things up. And so they'll always look for the negatives. So the second thing to avoid is the mainstream media. Don't expect to get up every day, read the paper, and then have a positive outlook, because you will be, you know, disappointed. Because I can guarantee you, if you open up the front page of any Indian newspaper or any UK newspaper, particularly the red tops, as we call them, you will see a negative headline, because they love to drill into that. And of course, we all read these things and we all, you know, but what actually happens is nobody actually gets anywhere by focusing on the negatives. You know, and I think as an example, you know, if wars start when both sides focus on the negatives, they seek revenge, okay? But the only way you ever resolve an argument or a challenge is to sit down with the other component parts, the other party, the other opposition, and say, how now can we solve this problem? It's only, and every war ends up with a sitting around the table of the two parties who originally started the war. So the crazy thing is you have all this negativity in between, lots of deaths, lots of collateral damage. And at the end of the day, what solves the problem? Sitting around a table and seeking to find a positive way forward. So short circuit all that and start, I would suggest, with looking at the three positives I said, the three E's. So the first thing you have to do is obviously work hard, endeavor. Okay, so there is no point sitting in the middle of a room, head in hands. Oh dear, I've got a terrible situation. It's terrible. It's bad news. All I would say is stand up, get up, start trying to open the doors that you can see. You may get 9 doors slammed in your face, but the 10th door will be the one that opens. So the key to that is, you know, leave no stone unturned. You as an individual, a leader, a worker, a member of the family, you are the only person that can change the situation to a positive. And you can only do that by trying to open the doors that are immediately in front of you. It's like nobody climbs a staircase by jumping to the top. You have to climb one step at a time. But who has to take that first step? You as an individual have to. So, first of all, endeavor is vital. Yeah? Do you agree with that? And now I'll give you the next one.
Well, I think very good advice. So very important, stay away from naysayers, negative people. is absolutely essential for our own good, and also not look at the mainstream media too seriously. I mean, you can look at it, but not too seriously. But I have a question, Mike.
Exactly.
The question is that people used to read the newspaper and whatever they can grab, and they used to call themselves information junkie. And what happens to those kind of people who have this urge of knowing what is going on? Current affairs, they have to know
Yep.
everything, every bit of it, because that helps them decide the
Mm-hmm.
next move. What happens to those kind of
Yep.
people?
Well, I would probably fall into the same category myself, actually, Chandra, because I spent longer than I care to admit, several decades being very interested in current affairs and politics. So yeah, I'm one of those. I will read the the intelligent paper. I would say, not the red tops. I'll read a semi-intelligent paper at the weekends. I will always watch the news. My father used to be compulsive about watching it. He'd sort of watch the 1 o'clock and then watch the 6 o'clock maybe, and he may even get around to watching 10 o'clock as well. I don't think the stories was that varied. Even in his old age, he didn't forget them, but maybe there was a slightly different slant, a little update. So I don't think there's anything inherently bad in following current affairs. In fact, when you're approaching these doors, we said you've got to keep banging on. If you don't take account of the environment that you're living in, then you're not going to actually take the right course of action. So I think, being aware of current affairs is very important. Also, I think on the the opposite side of what we said about mainstream media, Akulmach, for example, is a positive influence. Okay, listen to Akulmach every day. If you're having a negative situation, have some encouragement, have some positive input. And that's, I think, you've got a major contribution to make on that, Chandra. You're a decent, positive person, and you're running this show, and everything about this show is positive. So, you could do worse than tune into this every day if you've got a problem. And that brings me to the second E, which is, in my opinion, endearment. Because actually what we need around us is not the naysayers, but on the opposite side of the equation, you want the encouragers around you. You want the positive thinkers, the creatives, the people who say, actually, what about if you tried this? Or, I know you could work with me in this particular instance, and we could together overcome the challenge. So look for partnerships, look for joint ventures, look for people that are around you that you can build relationships with who are positive and make, the old word synergy, 1 and 1 equals 3. So find people around you who are going to actually contribute something positive in the face of that adverse situation. And that is, for me, the second vital element is not only are there the doors that you can go and open, but actually, if there's 2 of you trying to open doors, there's twice as many doors potentially to be opened. And you never know what might come from that. Because as we know, within the scale-up arena environment and within business growth environments, you don't get to enter into international markets unless you do it in conjunction with somebody locally. So, partnerships and joint ventures, having and finding those people that you can build this endearment relationship with, whether it be business or personal, will certainly help not only to maintain a positive spirit, but actually to maybe even establish a positive path forwards. So I would suggest, that's the second E, very much so. And as I said, Chandra, you're a positive person, you're an encouraging person, you're a good listener. And therefore, the show that you're producing, I believe, has a very positive contribution to make to that. And I think if more people listen to Akulmach and listen to your discourses, particularly if they are facing an adverse situation, they may get some ideas, they may be able to glean from the positive endearment and endeavour spirit that comes through the show. You can pay me later.
Well, definitely this is not rehearsed, and thank you so much for giving such nice compliments. We're trying our bit to not to have any negative impact, and we always cover the positive side. We always give advices to business because everybody needs advices. We also help people in networking. So try to maintain the positive outlook. So thank you so much once again, Mike.
Pleasure. And I think for me, the third E, if you like, is endurance. Okay, nobody ever said the journey was going to be easy. Nobody said that the difficulties are going to be over by, well, what time would it be for you? By 5 o'clock this afternoon. Nobody said it was going to be finishing and that it would be all plain sailing from now till the end of time. However, one thing's for sure, if you give up, you're never going to arrive. You're never going to break out of that situation. So, and I think it was, I think we've used this before, but on the expression that it's never over until you've actually achieved the objective. So if there's still the opportunities there, the situation isn't finished. And even if you get knocked down, the key is to stand up again. Some people have lost everything and then come back and made a fortune. So it's never over until you've actually given up in your mind. And those three E's, the endeavour, the endearment, the endurance, they came to me as the approach that a chap called Ernest Shackleton took. He was an explorer who, in the beginning of the last century, 1912, he used to do explorational journeys to the South Pole. And on one of these, he went down to the South Pole from the UK, and unfortunately, his wooden ship got frozen in the ice. And it wasn't just frozen for a week. It wasn't just frozen for a couple of weeks or a couple of months. It was actually stuck in the ice for, I believe, it was 15 months. It was way over a year. And and he obviously had a team of people, a team of men with him on that trip. And basically those were the three characteristics of his leadership style that it meant that actually at the end of that period, and this is just a demonstration of endurance and endeavour, to manage to rescue his entire crew, which is what happened in the end. He didn't lose a man. And basically, when there was sufficient melting of the ice, what he did was him and two or three of his crew members, they rowed from where they were stuck in pack ice to South Georgia in the South Atlantic. They actually rowed it, got support and supplies, and rescued the rest of the crew. So again, if he'd given up, he would never have rescued his crew, but he never gave up. And to me, that's probably the most amazing example of leadership. If you can imagine 15 months stuck in white snow or ice with virtually no food, with virtually nothing to do. I mean, I think they used to play football, so a team sport for endearment, for, keeping their spirits up. I'm not so much a football fan, but I think even in that context, I would have played football. I'd have probably gone for rugby, but since there were no hospitals to fix broken collarbones, football was probably a better option. But for me, that and when we're talking about how do you maintain a positive spirit in the face of adversity, how many times in 15 months you must have woken up and wished, well, I wish today we'd had some melted ice, but no, we haven't. Another day, we got to endure, we got to work, got to keep busy, got to keep eating, got to keep positive, and we've got to keep working together. And because of his leadership spirit, and for me, that is probably the best example of leadership that I can think of. And then there was, of course, there was Horatio Nelson, who was, quite a famous admiral a couple of 100 years ago. And just before the Battle of Trafalgar, he had a fleet of ships, and he used, and I couldn't tell you what it looked like, but he used flags to signify a message to his fleet. And the flags he signaled, and the message he signaled was, England expects every man to do their duty. And I think that's the other key, is we as individuals, in the face of adversity, have to do our bit. There's no point in expecting your next door neighbour to do it for you or somebody else to come bail you out. They've got their own challenges to resolve. Maybe they've got their own adversities. But one thing's for sure, if you sat down with your neighbour at a safe social distance and maybe had a cup of chai and chatted through your challenges, built the rapport, given a bit of encouragement, a bit of support, some creative ideas, there is much more chance that something positive is going to happen for both of you. If you both sit down and, mournfully think about how bad my situation is, I can't get out of this and blah, blah, blah. Because the other good thing is you're not alone in it. Particularly in the current situation, there's an awful lot of people in the same boat. And the other point that's relevant is there's always somebody worse off. It's not always easy to think that. Sometimes we want to be inward looking and thinking how miserable our situation is. But actually, the only way to look at it is to say, actually, I could be much worse off. If you've got a roof over your head, you're far better off than somebody who hasn't got a roof over their head. If you had something to eat today, you're far better off than somebody who hasn't had anything to eat yet today. So whatever happens, you've got to be, count your blessings. Because if you don't count your blessings and keep positive, you'll join the naysayers and the mainstream media on the spiral down. And that there's only one way that you go down, and that's to the abyss. The only way is up and forwards, in my view. So how do you maintain a positive spirit? You've got to work at it with endeavour, endurance and endearment.
Well, Mike, you gave a very good example of Mr. Shackleton. I think people who have not read about him must read and understand what is this endurance is all about. I think he went to the North Pole and then he wanted to find the South Pole, and that's when all these events happened, and I think many more events. His life is an example for everyone.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
So I think some of these very positive words came out from our discussion today. I think you are speaking from the heart and saying that, hey, let's not, there is no need to lose hope. In any adverse situation, we have to keep our positive outlook always, because something good will happen beyond the horizon. So I think that is what your advice is to our viewers, isn't it, Mike?
Absolutely, 100%. And the contribution from someone like yourself. And don't take for granted those people who can add a positive contribution in your life, because they are the ones who are going to help you get through whatever adversity you're facing today.
Absolutely. I think these are some of the positive encouragement we have got today from you, Mike. And I'll tell the viewers that If in case they want to talk to us, talk to Mike, please contact us. We will make that happen. We will bring you live and you can discuss directly with Mike. So with this positive outlook and advice, I like to end today's show. Mike, thank you so much for finding time and coming and discussing and telling us so many good words today.
It's been an absolute pleasure as always, Chandra.
Thank you, Mike, and I will catch up with you again next week. Until then, bye-bye.
Goodbye.
We have some unique Akulmach memorabilia which will make you look outstanding. The graphics on these corporate gifts are based on the global best business practices. To become recipient of one of these gifts for free, you have to watch this video till the end and provide your valuable comments. Or you can also share your experiences. The person who makes the best comment would be chosen to become a recipient of this beautiful Akulmach gift, absolutely free, delivered to your doorsteps. The winner would also get a chance to be invited live as a distinguished panelist during our next video. What are you waiting for, friends? Please subscribe Akulmach and smash that like button.